part 7 of Introduction to Synthesizers, I thought I'd look at MIDI, the digital communication system that's used on synthesizers to communicate with each other, prior to dealing with the filtering and modulation, pitch bend and breath control, which are all MIDI effects. What you're faced with initially is a standard 5-pin DIN lead, which connects one or other of 3 sockets: the input, the output and the through socket, and depending on how these are configured will depend where the data is sent to from one synthesizer to the next. This is a digital communication system, so there's no sound being sent through this cable, it's all computer code. If you understand this code properly, then you can do some clever tricks with the synthesizer. I think what might fox some musicians in some cases is the control technique that's used in MIDI is digital, and what it actually does is send control information to the synthesizers and doesn't actually use any sound. So it's actually beneficial in some ways in that you don't record oodles and oodles of sound, you record digital information that says what it is that you're actually doing. So if you press a key, all it does is remember the fact that you've pressed a key. This means that it's actually storing very much less information than it would have done had you recorded the actual sound, and in this way MIDI is extremely efficient. The DIN cable then is inserted into 2 sockets. One is the input and one is the output, and the data from the controlling keyboard or device controls a slave unit, and that's probably the simplest configuration that you can have. That doesn't mean to say that you can't have more complex setups where you use the through socket. The through socket duplicates the information coming from the input and acts as like a duplicate out socket, if you will. It takes the data immediately from the input and spews it back out to the through socket. So in this way you can chain or daisy chain equipment together and have multiple things all communicating on the same network, as it were. One of the really clever things about the MIDI system is that it has 16 channels and broadcasts a little like a TV signal, so you can control up to 16 different devices all at once independently, so that if you send out a piece of information on channel 1, only device number 1 responds to that information, and if you send out a control signal on channel 2, only device number 2 picks up that information, and therefore you can orchestrate the equipment rather like a conductor with his baton, telling one instrument to switch on or another one to switch off. There are 8 basic MIDI messages: no on, no off, poly key pressure, control change, program change, overall key pressure, the pitch bender, and system exclusive. It might not seem that 8 messages is enough to define how it is that every activity on an instrument actually takes place, but as we'll see, the MIDI system is actually far more complex than these 8 messages indicate. As we can see from the diagram, some of the control change messages are used to change modes, and some of those modes are special commands within the MIDI system. The MIDI system itself was intended to be a replacement for the old gate and CV method that manufacturers were using, because they were using different control voltages, and they opted for the MIDI system as a digital method that standardized the communication between their synthesizers. The MIDI communication system itself is comprised of 3 bytes, sometimes 2. The header byte, which in this case contains the no on information, which tells you which type of message it actually is. The channel information, which contains which channel it's actually broadcasting on, and then 2 more bytes. One in this case being the actual note information, followed by the velocity, how hard you've struck the note. In other cases, say for instance a program change, the header would contain the fact that it is a program change message, which channel it's on, and then 1 other data byte indicating the actual patch change that's taken place. So in the case of the note on message, what happens when you hit a key on the keyboard is that the note on message is generated on the particular channel that you happen to have selected, and you get 2 data bytes. One is the key that you have pressed, and the other one is how hard you've pressed the key. And when you let go of the key, one of 2 things can happen. Either it will maintain its running status and stay in note on and send a key velocity of 0, saying that there's now no sound whatsoever, or it will send a no off message, and that will be of the same key number that you have pressed. There's some variation between manufacturers as to which system is in operation, but somehow they manage to maintain compatibility between those two systems. If you're changing patches, that will use the program change message, and if you need to change to another bank of 128 sounds, that will use a particular set of the control change messages to do that. Some of the other controllers like portamento and vibrato I'll be coming back to later in their own section on controllers. If you're backing up the memory of something or using a sampler, then that will be using the system exclusive message, which has a single byte to indicate that it is system exclusive, followed by multiple bytes, which is the memory storage, and then the byte F7 to say that the system exclusive has now finished transmitting. If you're actually using system exclusive, then I can recommend MIDI OX, which is a brilliant program for transmitting and receiving system exclusive dumps, and that helps you keep track of your system exclusive information so that you can store it back up to PC or transmit it back from the PC back into the synthesizer, and that way store backup patches or samples into the PC. Okay, in this short video I'm going to show you how to set up MIDI OX to be configured to pick up a system exclusive dump. The first thing you need to do is make sure you've got some devices online, which is in the options menu, and you go to MIDI devices and make sure you've got the input and output set on your MIDI devices. This will be where the MIDI information is coming in and out of the ports at the back of your PC. Once you've done that, you go to the view menu and the SysX area, and this is now the SysX screen, and the SysX screen is controlled by this SysX menu. You need to configure the buffers. You can leave them as they're set and they will work, but I found you need to make these quite longer if you're using sampler information, which has got quite a lot of MIDI inside the data that's being sent to the SysX dump. So once that's set, you go to SysX receive manual dump, click that, and then the machine is waiting for you to send the MIDI information to MIDI OX, and when it's coming, that number of bytes will indicate how many bytes have been received. Then you click OK, whichever screen the dump has been put into. I think it's usually the display window. You go to the Save As on that menu and save it in SysX format, and then that's the dump complete.